doesn't seem all that long ago when finding a job in Bennington County was easier said than done. While the perception has been out there for a while that there's been a bit of a mismatch between jobs that were open and qualified applicants to fill them, right now at least, there seems to be no shortage of jobs at all skill levels in search of job seekers. Mary Norman and Phil Dunn opened Brownlee Manor as a senior living facility a couple of years ago, and like many other businesses around Bennington County, one of their main concerns is finding the right employees to staff it.
Well, when we first opened Bromley, we were told that there was our biggest challenge would be labor, finding good labor or labor source, and we found that to be very true. We've put ads in the local papers, we've put up posters, I've used Indeed, word of mouth, and we're always looking for additional people. We're staffed well enough, but we're overworking our current employees. Everybody is pitching in, they're doing double shifts and overtime, and we're concerned about wearing them out. They all have lives. We have very loyal staff. I have to really say that I have been so impressed with the staff that we do have, of what they'll do for us. They work very hard. We've considered all sorts of things. Every time Phil and I go out in the community, we ask the local waitresses, "Are you looking for another job?"
We've stolen a few waitresses. Clearly, the demand exceeds the supply. So either we decrease the demand or increase the supply. I'm not sure that decreasing the demand is going to work, because the business we're in is well, we're very busy. We're almost full, and we haven't been open for 2 years. So that doesn't look like a part of the equation that we can work on. The supply, come to Vermont. It's clean, it's quiet, you get a good education, you'll have a high quality of life and a good job. And if we can get that message across to areas of the country or regions that are not so fortunate, such as coal mining towns, for example, we just might be able to tweak the supply a little bit.
Their experience was echoed by Amy Chamberlain, who until recently owned and operated the Perfect Wife restaurant in Manchester. She now operates Amy's on the Road, a food truck that serves breakfasts and lunches. She talked to us about her experience with finding qualified staff.
Yes, when I had the Perfect Wife, it was hard to fill all the positions that I needed filled. And it was hard to find people that really wanted to work hard. I definitely had a good core staff, but the turnover of a good 30-40% of that staff was constant. One, because people didn't want to work that hard to labor physically. Two, it's very difficult to find a place to live in this town that's affordable. And a lot of the people that worked for me came from Granville, Hoosick Falls, Arlington, Bennington, Paulet. So people were driving a long way. Over the mountain as well, and it gets treacherous in the winter, and so when we talk about employment issues, I have to say that is probably what ultimately drove me to close the Perfect Wife.
The demographics of Vermont have long been targeted as a part of the problem. An aging population that isn't providing the sheer numbers of people who typically fill certain kinds of jobs in the manufacturing and service sectors has been cited as a factor here. According to the state's Labor Department, the size of Bennington County's workforce has declined by over 10% since 2007, when the U.S. economy hit a peak prior to the onset of the Great Recession of 2008-2009. That equates to more than 2,100 people who, for one reason or another, are no longer in the labor force. Even so, with Vermont's statewide unemployment at record lows, Bennington County's unemployment rate is still slightly higher than the state as a whole. the Labor Department's data says. In 2018, for example, while the state was showing a 2.7% unemployment rate, Bennington County was at 3.1%. Not bad historically, to be sure, but back in 2007, both the state and the county were equal at 4%. Michael Harrington, the acting Secretary of Labor here in Vermont, said that fixing the issues in Vermont's workforce will be a long-term process.
I think what we're looking at is a multi-solution and probably multiple programs, whether it's something like Stay to Stay, or it's active recruitment, or it's working with underserved populations. We've talked about just direct outreach to different populations, whether it's immigrants, whether it's retirees, and pulling from these different knowledge bases back to the workforce. So some of it is what are we doing within the state, and then some of it is what are we pulling from outside the state. I think the other thing too is it's not going to be we've solved this in a 6 month or even a year. I think the difference is we've got to stop planning for 12 months and start planning for 3, 5, and 10 years. And I think we need to say, where do we want to be in 10 years? And then we have to work back from that point. So again, begin with the end in mind. What's the ultimate goal, and where do we want to be in 10 years? And then what programs, steps, and efforts do we want to put in place? And I think if we do that, we'll see measurable growth year over year over year, but it really has to be a long-term vision, and it has to be a long-term effort.
Currently, the statewide unemployment rate is at an historic low of 2.1%. The national average is 3.7%. Bennington County is one of 4 counties in southern Vermont which have lost overall total population, not just in the size of the workforce. The others are Windham, Rutland, and Windsor counties. Population drops are also reckoned to have occurred in 3 counties up in the Northeast Kingdom: Essex, Caledonia, and Orleans. Vermont garnered a lot of national attention when it launched its incentive program in 2017 for remote workers, people who had a job that wasn't tied to a specific geographical location and could work from home or anywhere else with a good internet connection. The program offered a cash incentive of up to $10,000 for remote workers to move here. The program came in for some criticism from people who were already here and didn't get that benefit, but overall it's been judged a success and has succeeded in attracting a few new residents as well as a lot of generally positive publicity for the state. So much so that last year, lawmakers extended the program to add one that repays workers moving to the state up to $7,500 towards their moving expenses to take any job anywhere in the state. It's possible it may be expanded further to provide incentives to businesses that recruit workers to move here, Vermont Digger reports. Some of the reasons that have been advanced over time are the state's well-known demographic challenges. Vermont has the second oldest average age in the nation, just behind Maine, and housing and taxes have also been cited as to why the population remains stagnant. To be sure, Vermont is not the only state struggling with an aging population and a shrinking workforce. It's a problem that affects most, if not all, rural states, even places not often thought of as out of the way or isolated. Cape Cod is also struggling with a shortage of nursing assistants because of its high cost of living and the relatively low salary that such employees earn there. Bill Colvin of the Bennington County Industrial Corporation is helping to coordinate one of the 12 regional workforce summit meetings planned to be held across the state during October and November. The one in Bennington is scheduled for October 24th at the Bennington Museum. He spoke about what will be going on at the summit and how things have evolved since the publication of the Southern Vermont Economic Zone Report more than 3 years ago, which highlighted the population question and other economic challenges facing the southern tier of the state.
Really, these 12 gatherings will be following the same format statewide in an effort to gather some input from both employers and from service providers about the current state of workforce around the state of Vermont. The idea being this information will be collected, synthesized, and kind of uploaded to the Department of Labor to assist them in planning next year's statewide workforce summit. So that's the idea. The morning session will be with employers from the region, and it's really a goal of getting employers from a variety of different sectors, small, medium, and large businesses, and posing to them kind of the key question is, how has the workforce situation impacted your business? And there'll be a series of exercises that will be put in place and facilitated to help kind of sleuth out details around that question. Well, we know the unemployment rate across Vermont and in the region is at 20 plus year low. The workforce, the amount of people in the workforce has also risen by over 500 in the time since the Economic Development Zone report came out. And we know through our work at BCIC and going out and visiting with businesses around the region, and we do 75 to 100 business visits on an annual basis. We know that those meetings always start and end with currently we have workforce challenges. And if you go back to the Southern Vermont Economic Development Zone report, the very first line in there is Southern Vermont is in trouble and needs to repopulate itself. I think that holds more true today probably than when the report was issued in 2015, 2016.
For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.